Hello everyone, XV here with another Dota 2 educational video. Today we'll be speaking about support heroes, the unsung champions that really are the backbone of your Dota team. Dota 2 defines support heroes as being able to focus less on amassing gold and items and more on using their abilities to gain an advantage for the team. These heroes rely on their skills' raw printed damage and effects in lieu of their base attack damage or percentage-based gains. This means that whether your hero has a lot of items or few items, their power level is roughly the same. While never really shining in any phase of the game with respect to kills, they multiply the power level of the heroes around them, either with beneficial auras and buffs, or more notably, but less directly, stuns, snares, and disables. It's not uncommon for a support hero to finish a match with fewer than 5 kills, while still in their own way being the MVP of the game. In fact, any game where a support has more kills than deaths and some multiple of assists is one that I would consider well played. The courier is a mandatory asset for your team. As mentioned earlier, as a support, you don't rely on your items to contribute. As such, you can afford to spend the 170 gold. Remember that gold is meaningless until it's converted into items, and items mean nothing until they're actually in your inventory. You want to do everything you can to stay in lane and never forfeit experience. By the 8-minute mark, you're going to want to have upgraded the courier to flying. Unlike its first purchase, this can be done from anywhere on the map. Like the courier, these are your responsibility. In low-level games, most, if not all of the match is played without them. Yet in the high-level matches, it's not uncommon for wards to be one of the starting items purchased. What's more is that despite the game lasting 45 to 55 minutes, wards remain perpetually placed down and around the map. Buy them as early as you can safely afford them, and keep on top of their purchase and placement throughout the game. Typically, if you buy the courier, you shouldn't have to also buy the wards, but it's not uncommon. As the Radiant, the default ward positions are here and here. And as the Dire, the default positions are here and here. Placed here, these will allow you to monitor the rune spots, as well as providing you forewarning for ganks using the river to access the jungles. Other places really depend on the game, the enemy hero composition, and what you're looking to accomplish in the next few minutes. That's a bit more advanced though, and it isn't role specific to supports. The name support is very telling. You'll rarely see a support in their lane solo. Why? Because they are, as a role, designed to support another hero and their team. This may sound self-explanatory, but you have no idea the number of public games where I see supports fighting their lane partner for last hits, or even blatantly trying to steal killing blows on enemy heroes. Keep in mind that your late game will not be very impressive. It's your job to make sure that the people on your team who will scale into something monstrous get to that point. More importantly, get there as fast as possible. This means that you should be spending your effort harassing the enemy and denying more so than taking last hits. By doing the above, you'll allow your teammate to farm freely, and provided your lanes have been set up correctly, which we'll talk about in another video, will directly contribute to your team winning the game as a whole. Creep camps spawn every minute on the minute. This is important to note for farming, but for our purposes, also for pulling. Now, this typically only applies to the easy or long lane, but in a later video I'll discuss how to perform this on other lanes as well. The goal of this technique is to draw your friendly creeps off the path. This is incredibly useful for shifting the current conflict point back towards and hopefully past your own tower. Pulling the lane is something I rarely see done correctly. The reason for this is that players do not normally stack the camp. Failure to do so results in a bulge of creeps. This double wave that you create defeats the intent of the pull, and instead will actually push to the enemy tower in short order. This can be used as a tool when you want to pressure their tower, but it's not what you want to accomplish early game. Instead, between the 52 and 54 second mark, you're going to want to attack and draw the creep camp from its location and out of sight of its spawn point. This will convince the camp that it's empty when the minute rolls over, and it will spawn a new batch of neutral creeps. Once the pack that's chasing you gives up its pursuit, you're left with a double camp, or double pull. This allows the neutral camp to have both enough HP and DPS to eliminate your friendly creeps and prevent the bulge. As Radiant, you're going to be pulling on the 18 or 48-second mark, whereas Dire, you'll be pulling on the 16 or 46-second mark. Don't ask me why they're slightly different. It's just how it is. While pulling, pay close attention to your minimap and chat, as you may be needed to support your ally, or the enemy may attempt to gank you or steal your last hits. Free farming like this, you should have no issues getting every killing blow on the neutrals. If it seems like your creeps are doing too good of a job, remember that allied units can be attacked once they're below 50%. This will help the neutrals win, so to speak, and allow them to catch up if they're a bit behind. Your goal is to finish the fight without any of your creeps alive. Having neutral creeps live is optional, and typically depends on whether or not you can time it to stack the camp again. If not, kill them off so that the camp can respawn. While you're doing this, your teammate in lane should pull the enemy wave past your tower to fight the next friendly batch en route. This leaves your opponents high and dry, and well out of experience range. Executed correctly, you will deny your opponents 2 waves of creeps, and not only will you bolster your experience by not splitting it with your teammate, but it gives you an excellent opportunity to farm gold without fighting for kills. As a side note, make sure not to pull the lane when the enemy's wave has a catapult. Catapults prioritize towers over players, and won't pull past like the normal creeps will. This will cause unnecessary damage to your tower, and can actually hurt you more than you gain. Provided your efforts to win the lane and pulling the waves have been successful, you'll quickly find yourself with an experience advantage over your opponents. You'll also know that you're often out of lane and behind the tree line. This, combined with your arsenal of support skills, will help you line up early kills with ease. This may sound like common sense, but be sure to make note of the time of day and the length of vision. At night, you're able to move much more easily behind the trees, but during the day, you'll need to be more careful to stay out of line of sight. Effective communication with your teammate, as well as patience, are the 2 tools in practice here. Often these ganks are ruined by one or both of the participants acting too soon. Wait for your opponent to take a wrong step, and swing out from the trees and let those snares and stuns fly. Like creep kills, try to make sure your teammate gets the last hit, unless of course the enemy will get away otherwise. A kill's a kill after all. This can be additionally effective if coordinated with a mid lane hero in the rune spawn, which will be discussed in a later video. Once tier 1 towers begin to fall, the match is progressed into the mid game. This is typically around the 15 to 18 minute mark. Here it becomes unsafe to blindly follow the creep tide, as it puts you either behind enemy lines at their tier 2 tower, or defending a wave on your side of the river, but without the protection of your own tower. Either way, you're vulnerable, and support heroes are notorious for lacking escape tools and being prime targets for ganks. At this stage, most heroes begin to roam. They're either looking for waves of creeps in safe locations to kill for gold, relegate themselves to farming the jungle, or seek out hero kills. As a support, you should not be sitting in empty lanes free farming. You should be traveling with your ganking teammates and actively creating kill scenarios. Here is where the scoreboard will begin to really get a lot of action, and your name should be no different, except it should be assists that increases. At this point, your core items should be complete. Items like Mechanism or Yule Scepter of Divinity are excellent choices for their contribution to teamfights and the way they synergize with your support role. But remember not to neglect wards, as map vision is hugely important in this phase of the game. The late game for support heroes is virtually identical to the mid game, with a little bit more gold invested into items. Stick with the team, contribute your spells, consistently buy wards, and pick up any situational items that the match calls for. For example, Smoke of Deceit, Dust of Appearance, or Sentry wards. These aren't things you yourself need to carry, but your teammates should be spending their gold on DPS items, and not consumables. At this point in the game, you should never be alone. There's no reason for it, and if you make a habit of venturing off, you'll be spending a lot more time rezzing than playing. All heroes should carry TP scrolls on them at all times, with very few exceptions. As a support hero, it's imperative that you watch your minimap for lane changes in enemy hero count. Is another lane suddenly 3v2 or worse? You should be TPing there immediately. Dota is a game where even one stun can sometimes be the turning point for an entire battle, and merely the animation of you teleporting in can often be enough to deter would-be gankers. This is a skill I feel is sorely underutilized in public games. In pro matches, oftentimes would-be ganks are not only prevented, but the tables turned, and the would-be killers are the ones giving up the gold. Remember that you will always be undergeared. Compound that with probably being squishy in the first place, and you'll find yourself in a tough spot for staying alive. This is why your positioning is extremely important. Never go off alone, contribute to team fights from the back, and wait to engage until after the first blows have been traded. While this has only scratched the surface of advanced support play, I hope that you found it useful for taking your game further. As always, if you liked the video, please thumbs up, comment, share, and subscribe to stay up to date with future episodes.